we're talking about what options do we have to plant going ahead. I think everyone here probably, has a pretty good grounding on where they're at. And I mean, this is something that, you start to come up with your plans and you add it into your, do I need quick feed, or, when are my sowing dates roughly going to be for that paddock being ready. So I guess, we've got all these options of brassicas, both short, your quick leafy turnips and things like that are going in now with a bit of oats. And then you've also got your long terms like your rape types or kales and things like that. Ryegrass, short, medium, long term, diploid, tetraploid. So traditionally, we're a very strong diploid Italian market and also that tetraploid annual market. So, having that fit of knowing, righto, I'm planting corn in September, I really just want a tetraploid annual to get me through to that period. I just want to spend $3, $4 a kilo. Knowing that that's the product you need to get your hands on, versus, I'm sowing and I want it to push through to December, late November. I'm going to use, a good quality diploid Italian to get me through that quality feed late. So we got that, and then obviously we got cereals, so winter wheats, oats, rye corn. Oats and rye corn are probably your ones you're looking for early. Got barley in there as well, I didn't put that up. Winter wheat can start going in as well early. Knowing where they all fit, you probably want to talk to, well, we can go through that anyway if you've got questions on it. But they all have a slightly different fit. Winter wheat, I know you compare like ryegrass, you're probably going to get, 4+ grazings off it. Whereas an oat, a lot of oats, we're looking at that quick 1 to 2 feeds. But definitely getting that quicker, earlier feed. The modern day oats varieties, Heritage Seeds has some great ones out of Queensland bred, stuff that can handle heat. We've seen that, we're getting them in early, we're getting feed. So, if and I stress this, if you are going in for an early plant, steer away from your things like your cooler bars, your Sayer and things like that, because they're not going to handle, if you do get that hot flush of 30+ degree days for a week. Some of those better quality ones are going to handle that. Use your cooler bars later on in your mixes with your ryegrass to give you a bit of protection, but it's also, you're just chasing that one feed off them. We've also got, your herbs, so chicory, plantain, and then your legume components, so lucerne, red clover, white clover, annuals. Annual clovers is something we probably haven't touched a lot on. They're probably becoming a little bit more popular with Persians. So probably everyone remembers the old shaftal clover. Pretty cheap to put in, very high quality, very high production. We've been using the last few years laser, which is a longer season Persian, so about 126 day, I think it is, mate, isn't it? Versus like a shaftal at 90. So we're marrying that Persian up with, say a good Italian. Especially for a cut and carry at Redgroves this year, I think we got up to 4 cuts off it, and it was absolutely spectacular feed. Big sowing rates. We're at about 25 kilos of ryegrass with 15 kilos of clover. So you're all sitting down, so that's probably, you're not going to fall over, but yeah, it's big sowing rates. But the quality is there. You're not having bloat problems because you're cut and carrying. If you are going to be grazing, maybe pull back a little bit. Where any grazing did happen, we're probably at around 10, and we never saw a problem. We were about a 50-50 mix, and I think with the right grazing management, you're not going to have a problem. Those cows were self-sorting anyway for what they wanted to eat. So I just threw those couple of photos up. Obviously, over here we've got up the top you've got a leafy turnip on the right versus a rape type next to it. Your leafies are generally those lighter green, quicker types, Chinese cabbage cross, and basically your Winfords and your Intervals and your Goliath and things like that are going to be your rape types. That's just out the demo side at my place, and I've just thrown barley in there for an option. In saying that was barley coming up with other cereals around it, and you look how quick it's punching out of the ground. So, if you're after that quick feed, you got a paddock ready to go. Don't discount those cereals of being able to do that. Even a bit later, when it's a bit cooler, things like that, they can still perform. Well, Josh, you've...
Yeah, so just a couple of things before we go off the brassicas and stuff. So there's obviously some animal health issues as well. So make sure that you're talking to someone about what you're going to be doing. And brassicas aren't brassicas. So you need to know what their maturity is, because the maturity is really important as to how stock safe they are for grazing. Typically most of the stuff we use down around here when we're sowing our winter pastures is all leafy turnip, short season stuff. But just be careful that you don't get something that's a 90-day type maturity or 110-day maturity, and you're putting it in and trying to graze it in 40 days, because you could have some animal health issues definitely with that. So understand what you're going to be looking at is very, very important. The only thing I wanted to point out as well, if you like me drawing here, so if we say the ryegrass that we're going to be putting in our mix is obviously going to be a bit slower, and it's very, what are we talking about? Temperature sensitive, moisture sensitive. Okay, we want to look after it. That's the stuff that we're going to be putting in, and we want it to go through to Christmas. Where these brassicas and the oats and the southern green rye corn and barley and all these sorts of things and that fit, is they actually give you a bit of protection as well and create a bit of a microclimate. So if you are sowing early, so your blacks here are basically like cereal types. They're going to handle that heat. They're going to get up and protect some of your ryegrass. Okay, brassicas will do exactly the same. Okay, and help do that as well. Really high quality stuff. Some of the things you need to keep in mind though is making sure that you understand when your grazing times are. So if you do put stuff in that's quicker and earlier, we don't want it to go past that canopy closure, okay? Because we want to see the light down into our ryegrass to keep it going, all those sorts of things. And then yeah, just make sure that you know what species you've got in there, so you're setting yourself up for the grazing.
And we had that question yesterday about nipping off kike that's had ryegrass sown underneath it. Kind of why you got that diagram up. Yep. Obviously we talk about the pull test, knowing when ryegrass is right to go. That's a bit different. That's when it's up here and getting 2.5 leaf canopy closure. Or go out there and do the pull test. But when we're talking about a paddock, then the kikes come away, but you got the ryegrass underneath and it needs a quick nip off. A lot of the time you can do it. If you can move those cows across there quickly and come back to taking that 1,000 kilos, 1,200 kilos off the top and just nipping the top off it and allowing that sunlight to get back down to the ryegrass, that next grazing will change. The worst thing you can do is think that we're damaging the ryegrass by putting the cows on the paddock. It's actually the reverse. If you get too much feed there and you're holding off and it gets away and there's no sunlight, they are just not going to compete. They don't have the ability to. So
you've got to graze what you've got. Okay, so graze what you have in the paddock, and you've just got to sit there and go, well, if the kikes come back because I've used nitrogen, or just because it's a good season, it's hot and humid, or whatever it is, if the kike is coming back, the rule is, okay, 4.5 leaf or canopy closure, okay, we're still going to deal with that. So we need to get on there and remove it. So all you're asking to do, again, is to remove that good quality feed. Okay, so if we keep into what we're talking about there earlier in the day, we remove the quality feed, we allow the light back down into the ryegrass, so then by next grazing the ryegrass can come up and compete. If we don't remove it, quite often what I see, and people miss the boat on it, is we get to a point where it gets really high, the kike, okay, the ryegrass sends signals going, I need to see light here, so it starts trying to jump away, okay, and it sends this spindly little seed, leaf trying to get up. What happens is, and this is why sometimes I'm going around farmers and sometimes you go in early with a kike and remove it for this reason, because if we go too late and this isn't ready to be grazed yet because it's only got small roots, so what we talk about for the first grazing with ryegrass is the pull test, right? Or canopy closure, whichever comes first. So if we can then get in there and pull that grass out and it doesn't pull the roots out, okay, don't be shy, just be like a cow and pull it out, and we don't want the roots coming out. We just spent money putting it in, we want it to stay in there. So what happens is the cows will come through and they'll grab hold of this, and sometimes the roots come out with it. Okay, and that's sometimes when we have missed the boat. So understanding what's going on in the paddock and taking some walks around so you can actually make some decisions. If I do this quick nip, and we also call it a on-off grazing. So unfortunately, it's just going to be a bit more management, but it'll pay you back in the long run. Sometimes we just got to put the cows on there for a couple of hours and we don't want them to eat down into this ryegrass. So we just ask them to remove that leaf of that kike. Right? We pull them off and then feed them some silage or give them another paddock or whatever. But we've done the job that we've had to do just due to the conditions or whatever's happened.
And they do that because they are chasing that high quality feed, so they do it pretty quick and pretty easy. You know, they know what they want to target. So,
like that ryegrass is lollies all the way to the bottom because we haven't set that residual yet, it hasn't had a grazing, so it hasn't started to thicken up the stem. Once you start grazing and get to your 4 to 6 centimetres, okay, and it's growing out here, you start to set a residual, and the cow's nose actually go to that, and they'll sort of eat what they ate before, but they won't go too much lower after 3 or 4 rotations. But in your first grazing, she's all lollies to the ground.
So on that, if our first grazing's not low enough on our rye, so we've come out a day early trying to protect it, they never go back past that point.
No, it's a different story. In that scenario, we're actually not trying to graze the rye.
No, I know, but if we're just on a ryegrass paddock now,
Yes, yep.
You just talked about then how they graze back to the same height.
Yes.
Nearly, is that correct? So,
Yep.
so
They sometimes leave a bit more, but
yeah.
ideally in ryegrass, you're asking them to remove all the good quality new feed.
Yeah. But if you've gone out of the paddock half a day early because it was convenient, you were going away and you didn't want to leave them for 2 days and not come back till Monday, you've gone out too early. Last year, ours never seemed to ever go back past that point. We could never get the paddock back down to where it should be.
100%. So I'm trying to draw what you're explaining is, ideally we try to graze down to 4 to 6 centimetres, okay? And the research behind that is that when I was learning, I always got taught all the energies in our roots, but in that 4 to 6 centimetres, the plant actually stores energy. So it doesn't do that until it gets past 2 leaf stage. Okay, so once it gets to 2 leaf stage, it's actually stored enough energy in here. Okay, so that's why, can anyone tell me what the grazing rules is for ryegrass? Yeah, so it's actually 2 to 3 leaf, or, what have I been talking about? Yeah, whichever comes first. Now, in spring, you'll probably hit canopy closure at 2 leaf, okay? If you've got good nutrition and things are growing. So it goes more in canopy closure. But the point is, so 2 leaf, we want it to be able to store the energy here, so then it's telling the plant that if we do a graze, it's got enough energy there to recover from a grazing. What happens if we don't do that, okay? Let's say that this was a 3 leaf plant and we grazed it, okay? And we grazed the same height. This plant here was 1.5 leaf, okay? When both these plants recover, you'll get a nice big leaf on this one because we got past 2 leaf stage, stored the energy. It can't photosynthesize real well because it doesn't have any leaf, right? It doesn't have much solar panel. So what happens with this fella that only got cut off at 2 leaf, or less than 2 leaf, sorry, so about 1.5 leaf, he'll have a smaller leaf because he hasn't sent enough energy to store here. So that might take 10 days, that might take 10 days. Exact same conditions, but just due to grazing management, you'll grow a small leaf. Also, if you graze below that 4 to 6 centimetres, right, you're removing energy that plant needs to recover from a grazing, and the exact same will happen. So if let's say we graze down too low, and happens in winter all year, every year, we overgraze our ryegrass, this plant here will grow a smaller first leaf. The next leaf is always a representative of the first leaf. So we grow a bigger second leaf and a bigger third leaf. Okay, so most of your yield will come out of that last leaf. That'll take 10 days in the same growing conditions. That'll take 10 days. That'll take 10 days. Why does it grow bigger? It's got more energy to pull in from the sunlight. It's just a solar panel. The bigger it is, the more it can store. So this fella here, that on both these, compared to this one, is still going to grow a bigger leaf than this fella here because you've taken away his energy reserves. You do that 2 or 3 grazings in a row, and it starts to shorten up the roots because it's pulling more energy out. You get to spring and you get a drop. What do? We get dry periods in spring here. We have dry springs, that's what happens. And then you see these cows walking around with the ryegrass hanging out and the roots hanging out their mouth. And it's because of our grazing management in the winter. Okay, we've grown less. We've affected that plant's ability to get to moisture and nutrients in spring, and then it's just getting pulled out.
So the other one that you've drawn there, the black one,
Yep.
where we didn't quite go hard enough.
Yep.
So what do we do to fix that?
So no different than the stuff that we talked about with the kikuyu today. We need to reset residual to 4 to 6 centimetres. So topping, other livestock.
Let's just add something really quickly to that aerial tillering as well, where there is a problem when it does get out of control in spring.
So that's going past 3 leaf stage and past canopy closure. So in that scenario, we reset the residual, because if we don't reset the residual, and in fact, the fact is, if we've wasted feed, so potentially when you go into that paddock, you say, there's feed here I could have consumed with an animal and made something out of. It's okay, because I need to move on because of my rotation. I now am wrong today, so I don't want to be wrong tomorrow. So I put management things in to fix it. So that might be, I'm going to come and fix this one, top it, whatever it is. I'm going to actually give them less feed, right? Or they stay in there. If you set stocking, rotational grazing, they're not in there for 3 days, they're in there for 4 or 5 days. All of a sudden, I've got a true surplus. Now I'm cutting silage.
Yeah, we couldn't get the steers to eat it. Like honestly, they'd walk before they'd go down. Like when you came back the second time, they would never go. You could never get it back.
No. But if you put animals straight in behind that, like which you, in some of the dairy scenarios, they can try and do that, where they want lower feed, they don't need as high quality feed. You can do that, or go in and top it, and within the day, reset the residual, and you'll have no problems going forward. But you got to deal with it, and it's going to happen. But just one quick one with the aerial tillering. Okay, if we keep 2, 3, that's when we should have grazed. And we've got one here, and we've just hit canopy closure. Don't get too worried about the science behind canopy closure. It's exactly what it is. If you go up to the plant and you sort of open up and you can't see the soil, it's canopy closure. You've maximised the ability for that plant or that paddock to get photosynthesis. Okay, you can't put any more solar panels. Effectively, your roof's full of solar panels. You can't put any more in. Right, so we need to remove it and deal with it. And you've got new tillers coming underneath. So every time we grow a leaf, we're going to grow a new tiller. Okay. And if we're going past canopy closure, these tillers aren't going to see sun. Okay, so they either abort, they die, whatever. If you're opening up your pasture and it's all yellow underneath, you're past canopy closure. Okay, we've missed the boat. That's okay. It's going to happen. Happens everywhere. But make the decision today. I'm wrong. Let's fix it. Let's get on the right track. So then what happens is this plant, if you keep letting that go, let's say we go another week because, we've got a heap of feed and we don't need it. Okay, this plant here will start to stem and elongate and you'll get nodes in here. Okay, this plant is saying, I need to go to this, I need to grow. I need to extend myself. I can't see the sun. I need to grow. What happens then is when your new tillers, which are your new plants for spring, right, these are the ones that are going to keep you going in, keep you going for the next one, they'll start popping out here and they'll want to put some roots down if it gets real bad. And I've seen it like that far off the ground. Okay, now these tillers, if you go and cut silage, graze it, whatever, okay, they are going to be removed, completely gone, and that whole plant's gone dead. And you don't have that plant back again. Okay, and as soon as we go past our 3 leaf stage, so you're going past 3 leaf stage, you'll lose or loss quality. Okay, so your quality starts to decline straight away. And also, as soon as you go past canopy closure, you're losing quality as well. So for all these reasons, we try to stick to these rules. And the rules aren't, look, it's not an exact science. It's 2 to 3 leaf. It's so if you're on 10 days per leaf emergence, it's between 20 and 30 days. It's not an exact science where we sit there. What I know when I deal with farmers is if I'm going into autumn, I'm wanting to push to 3 leaf because I know it's not going to grow any faster. So I can't get out of control that way. So I try to hedge my bets so that if it slows down, it's only going to go back to 2.5 leaf. You know what I mean? When I'm going into spring, we're sitting with guys and we're saying, well, it's going to start going. Let's get back to 2.5 leaf or 2 to 2.5 leaf. We'll make sure we're going pre-canopy closure because there's some rain coming and I've just fertilised. Like you sort of start to know what's going on, and then you're going to get a heap of growth. So you start to get on top of it and get in front of it, and set your rotations up so that this sort of stuff doesn't get out of control.
When you mix your reds and your white clovers and your plantains and your all that, when you first plant, it's all right because you're on 40-day rotation or whatever. You start getting down to a 20, 15-day rotation.
Yep.
I can't remember what red clover is. It's a lot slower growing pattern.
Yeah. So the thing that I always tell guys is I think I put it in one of those first slides, is complexity. Like, the more we add complexity to heaps of different species, creates some challenges, but that's okay as long as we know what we're dealing with. But at any point in time, I always tell guys, you graze to what is there. What is 80% of the feed that's offering it to me? And that's what I graze to.
Yeah, we probably find here that the red, it's maybe slightly early for the red, but it still comes back, and we graze for the kikuyu, and it's still okay. It doesn't seem to weaken it too much. It's still.
Yeah. It's probably the opposite. If you the kikuyu is going to outgrow compete, but if you don't graze it because you think the clover's a bit slower, if you don't graze it, it's going to shade the clover out anyway. Okay, so it's all about opening up that light and all that sort of thing as well, and dealing with those thatch issues, and that'll help promote clover.
If you think about the kike and the ryegrass situation we spoke about taking the kike off to let the light to the ryegrass, it's probably no different again, ryegrass to the clover in those early stages. You know, you're probably not going to do any damage because he's going to be sitting down there like 4 inches high. You know, you're not really going to actually pull him out. They're not going to be able to get to him.
That's what I found last summer with the brassica and rye. We had him early. It was real bloody wet. Remember when the drought broke and it got real wet? Yeah. I was terrified of putting the cows on there because I knew they were going to chop the shit out of the paddock. Yeah. And so I held off. But what I ended up doing, we remember the paddock down there on the flat, the brassica just grew that much. The rye germinated, but it died just from lack of sunlight. So I'd have been better off to take the hit
on the brassica and
just put them in there. You know, probably give them a bigger strip. They would have still chopped it up, but I probably would have ended up with a better paddock of ryegrass after it. But it's like it's a decision that
100%.
And again, it's not like you just got to try and think of these things about light, moisture, everything, and sit there and go, well, what's the best decision? There's never going to be the right decision. The right decision would be that it didn't rain so much, and all these sorts of things. So you've got to just do the best you can.
And I'll chop the shit out of the paddock.
Yeah, and look, if you've got to top it up a bit, you've got to top it up a bit.
If we open the canopy, that's going to dry it out too, though, isn't it?
Open up the canopy.
Yeah, when it'll be that wet, then you're hesitant to go in.
Yeah, look, this is, again, there's going to be circumstances, and we can talk about individual paddocks, and that's why we've got to be careful about prescriptions on stuff, right? Because it's never a prescription. If I've got a waterlogged paddock and I've got oats or barley or stuff outgrowing the ryegrass, but if I go in there, I'm going to pug that deep, the decision is I don't go in. But the decision is it's a waterlogged paddock, right? Nothing's growing anyway because there's no oxygen in it. The fact is, pull it out of the rotation, it shouldn't be in there, and then you're dealing with what you can deal with. And we deal with this all the time when we get floods up the coast. People get too really worried about what they can't do rather than actually focus on what they can control. So, if we've got some hills and stuff and we're getting the grazing management right there, we've got some flooded paddocks, we can sit there and say, am I going to get it? At the end of the day, it's flooded. Pull it out, wait until it's right that you can do something with it, and then go and make some management decisions about what we can do. But in my case, in that scenario, if it's going to pug and wreck your soil more than anything, you just wouldn't be doing it. So really focus on what can be controlled, and because sometimes people will get there and really worry about that one paddock that they can't control, and the rest of the farm is humming, but it's all out of control as well. Okay, so focus on what you can control.
Yep, 100%. Righto, well, I guess running through what we said, we probably touched off on a lot of that just then, but assess your current pastures, see where you're at. Now's a important time. This is what's either getting on top of things now is going to make it easier in 4 to 8 weeks' time when you're actually trying to do things in the paddock with machinery. Identifying paddocks for those plantings, so pick where you're at, and what you're going to deal with. Talk to your stores that you're buying products off for, have we got it in stock? I'll just mention fertiliser. If anyone's read the land, you probably don't want to know what starter fertilisers are worth. It is just, it's something I can't control, it's out of my control. Thank America and South America for having a great season. So yeah, and also, you know, massive sowings out west. So
So price one, the supply.
it's actually, yeah, price is not really the issue. It's actually getting it is actually the problem. We're okay at the moment, but it's going to be first in best dress, as rude as that sounds. It is going to be what it is because it's just not there. You know, for instance, Incitec are sold out, Impact are sold out. It's not a fact of whether you can afford to pay for it, it's just can you actually get it. So, so keep that in the back of your mind of starting to plan and put your name on things. Seed, I haven't seen any issues. Josh, Adam, there's nothing really sitting there seed-wise. It's pretty right.
Story when you have good seasons, the seeds are good, and when you're really chasing things and things are tough, it's short.
A flat tyre in the tractor because you just about can't get tyres at home.
But you can't get tyres either.
Oh, it's even like machinery, you know, talking to guys saying, oh, my new seeder's turning up and they've sold their old seeder and they're all panicking because, yeah, machinery's a hard one. I know from talking to a few guys, you know, new tractors, they're bloody 6 month wait if you want to order one. You know, it's go sell your second-hand gear is a great time because it moves overnight. Anyway, coming back to, remember those 3-4 things, you know, light, temp, moisture, nutrients, that's, you know, things, you know, to focus on going forward and maintain the quality in your perennial to drive this late production. You know, just keep resetting that. You know, if it's getting out of control with these rain events and temperatures we're going to get, kike's going to grow, liver seed's going to grow, your summer crops are going to keep firing, so just keep on top of that. It's going to make life easier going forward. Final thing I'll finish off on, you know, talking to David Dean and LLS, looks like field days are back on this year if everything continues and we stop letting Victorians into New South Wales and New South Wales people into Victoria. So yeah, all going well. We'll be back up at my place at Singleton this year for pasture demonstrations. We're going to have a dryland section as well. So anyone that's doing dryland stuff, we're leaving a section out. It'll be interesting. That's some of the feedback we've had from your feedback on the field days is we want to see that. So we're going to stick that in and yeah, again, thanks to all the people that have been involved in that and continue to support it. Last year we did the videos, which I think are, you know, got a fair viewing on Facebook and social media and through the LLS, so it worked out well. It was disappointing we couldn't have the field days, but all going well, we'll be back there this year and hopefully get some good information out. So anyway, thanks again for coming. Thanks to LLS and Dairy Australia, Dairy New South Wales for putting on the event for everyone here today, and hope you enjoyed it. And any questions, mix and mingle and grab some lunch. Thank you.